This is a scene that I made for my webcomic. And trust me, that was something that was not easy to do. Making up a story for your comic can take a lot of time. Taking that story and bringing it to life with drawings can bring its own challenges as well. So today we're going to be breaking down my process on how I made this piece, and we're going to go ahead and talk about what some of the challenges that I had to face. So let's go ahead and get started. So for some context, I'm making a scene roughly close to the end of my story. So yeah, at this point, it's going to be roughly midway through Act 3 or towards the end of Act 3. So the characters are starting to resolve their problems and trying to accomplish their goals. So this scene involves the main character offering a tiny star to her friend. So my main character is a little girl who got separated from her grandfather, and her whole journey in this story is just her trying to find her way back home. She lived in a world where she wasn't exposed to a lot of things, and so when you see her in the beginning of the story, she's gonna feel very frightened for almost everything, and that includes things like flowers, animals, butterflies, although I'm scared of butterflies myself, but anyway. And of course, as she's trying to find her way back home, she meets interesting people and tries to help them along the way. So this is what's happening in this scene right here. She's helping her friend, the owl boy, to retrieve the star. And yes, he is called the owl boy, and the main character is known as the child. It's not their real names. I just kind of got into this story without giving them names. But now that I've given them names, it's already to the point where their names haven't been brought up. And yeah, so we're just gonna go ahead and just leave them as they are, the owl boy and the child. One thing that I felt pretty okay was making the composition for this scene. I already had a good idea of what it was gonna look like, but the one thing that I was struggling the most was making the characters. And what I mean by that is trying to figure out the design of these characters. I already had a pretty basic idea on what my main character was gonna look like. On the other hand, we have the owl boy. Oh boy, where to begin with the owl boy? So, up to this point when I was drawing this scene, I didn't make any model sheets for my characters, so I was just kind of feeling through the sketches. I was just kind of playing around how I wanted the owl boy to look like, because I wanted to have this scene where it looks very abnormal and yet kind of friendly at the same time. I don't know if I portrayed it well in this scene, but once I'm done with this, I'm gonna flesh out their designs a bit more. So he might look different the next time you see him. Earlier I mentioned that it's one thing to write a story, and bringing that story to life through drawings can have its own challenges. So one of those challenges is trying to figure out how my comic is going to look like and what kind of style I'm trying to portray. So my comic is a fantasy story, and I've been kind of looking into different kinds of fantasy graphic novels to gain inspiration. But it's something that didn't appeal to me for my particular story. I wanted something very whimsical and very sketchy and rough at the same time. And so I was trying to figure out what kind of art style goes well with that. So then I started thinking on things that I get inspired, both for the art and the storytelling. Things that I pulled from inspiration are things like The Little Prince, Grease, Gris, I don't know how you pronounce that, and The Child of Light. And what's the thing that all three of them have in common? They use watercolors as their medium of choice, or at least portraying that style of watercolor. And I thought, hey, you know what? This actually might work. Although I never really use watercolors. Not too often, at least. I don't really go out of my way to use them in my own work. In this case, my comic's gonna be all digital, so I should have some wiggle room on kind of playing around and test it out. But hey, if you're someone who's really good at watercolors, feel free to leave some tips and tricks down in the comments below. Although I'm not sure how well that applies to digital watercolor brushes, but hey, it's worth a shot. And while you're down there, why not like this video and subscribe as well? So this concludes the time lapse of this video. Overall, I like it. I think it turned out pretty good. I think it's the vibe I'm gonna go for my comic. One thing I would say, I will go back and redefine the Owl Boy's design and try to make it more polished. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this where I just make my comic. Perhaps my wife and I will make a little series on our journey to making our webcomics. That might be a thing, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. See you soon.